Morning all. I'd like to do a new series on the move 35 to 40 Blunderzone, as I'd term it. Basically, a lot of the master games, the modern master games on this channel, have a time limit set by FIDE, which is often 90 minutes for the first 40 moves. And when players reach move 40, they get an extra 30 minutes for the rest of the game. And often there's actually, on the modern clocks, there's also an increment of 30 seconds per move, starting from move 1. And in the recent Tata Still Tournament of 2014, there are actually a catalogue of blunders in the decisive games, which occur in what I call the Blunderzone. These are moves 35 to 40, and most often actually moves 38 to 40, but I'm going to take 35 as a sort of cut-off point for what I can consider the Blunderzone. Now, one of the more dramatic examples occurred in round 4. Levon Aronian playing Nakamura, and we'd actually reached move 40, and it looks as though white has a pleasant enough endgame here. The knight seems quite good compared to the bishop, and if you look at these pawns, they're away from the colour of the bishop. And also there's a very, very important subtle consideration here about this h4 square as well, because potentially the black king or the f4 square and this route here, these two routes are quite important for attacking f3 and h3 in this position. So it's important to consider king movements like this to attack white's kingside pawns, especially as the bishop is not attacking anything. It's not going to be attacking anything, because all the pawns, absolutely every single white pawn, is on a white square away from the bishop at the moment. Okay, now Levon Aronian plays king b5, and you might think this is getting quite critical. And also, what about just trying to win a pawn here? So this is at move 40. Nakamura was now, I assume, in quite high time pressure. So all credit for Levon for getting the position, getting this moment in the game where the opponent is under maximum pressure. And this is where blunders can be induced, because it's like the boundary. It's like sometimes you try and play an intuitive move quickly, like a blitz game, and actually analysis shows counterintuitive moves are often much better. Now the first thing to notice here, actually, even before king b5 was made, let's just have a quick look at knight g7 check. If we try and take this pawn, then actually this is a bit of a trap set for the knight. The knight's only got g3 to come back, so this was quite a clever trap. Bishop e1, and actually king g6 is going to be threatening that knight, and black's actually winning that. So it was very, very clever that at move 40 in the Blunderzone, should we call it, king b5 was played by Levon. Very, very good move, avoiding that trap, this little trap. Okay, but here Nakamura, I assume, is very short on time, and actually plays a move which gives the impression that the endgame might have been lost for black, because in the game we see king d7. And the thing is, this actually allows white to destroy this entry point h4. If this king was coming in like this, h4 was an important entry point in theory. I know it's guarded by the knight at the moment, well, the knight's not guarding it, but this actual entry point is completely removed from black first with just knight g7, not with the idea of coming to h5. When the pawn moves, it's sealed off, and the knight just comes back, and black is actually in a totally, completely, irrevocably lost position here. He's in Zugzwang here, basically. It looks as though it's Zugzwang. In the game, bishop e1 was played, and then after knight e3, the knight is simply going to come to c4 now. King e6, knight c4. And the king is just too far away to get into white's position. So white's going to win that a pawn, and then black is doomed. If black what can actually black do in this position? If bishop, let's say bishop f4, then the king can just take on a5. So the king, if the bishop, so that's why the bishop's kind of dropped back here. It's protecting h4 and protecting a5, but it's overstretched, really. So after knight e3, that's kind of it. So the blunder zone, let's have a look at the blunder zone again though. So after king b5, there's actually, from an engine point of view, this position is actually no big deal. Black, if he keeps these entry points open, h4 and f4, he can actually just play king f7 here. For example, king f7. How does white actually win this? Say white wants to go after this a pawn. So knight d6 check, king g6. Now remember, we've got these 2 points to get in to attack these pawns. So say we go with knight c4 here, bishop e1. Let's say we take this pawn. Now king g5, and we've got the 2 options. Knight c4. And actually it turns out here that black is actually better here with the move king h4. This is such a critical entry point, h4. That's why it was important for Levon Aronian to take h4 away, because the h3 pawn means a far outside passed pawn, which knights often have difficulty getting hold of. They have to jump around the whole board to get hold of it. And actually, black can actually sacrifice the bishop here, take here, and this knight is struggling to stumble back to equalize here. In fact, the best move is to sacrifice the knight, apparently, to try for f4. But here, black is actually slightly better. It's tricky, but black's actually slightly better. If anyone's got the winning chances, it's black there with the extra pawn. And if the knight doesn't sacrifice itself, then this outside passed pawn is actually completely winning. White's actually also having his pawns mopped up here. The 3 pawns against the knight, white is doomed. So it actually seems at move 40 that this is actually such a critical blunder in this game that king d7 was played. The thing is, it's, as I say, it's not just in this game. There are a load of games, quite a high percentage, which had blunders in the blunder zone of move 35 to 40. And the reason I want to raise this is because actually, if you look at the comments for this game on, say, chessgames.com, it's as though the endgame was winning all along. Actually, you know, it wasn't. It looks as though on the surface it's a very, very pleasant knight versus bishop endgame. But if these 2 entry points are kept, you know, white pawns are not invulnerable. The king is such an aggressive piece in the endgame, so even if you have, you know, a bishop which seems completely hopeless, there is some hope. But even apparently in this position, there's actually 2 other waiting moves which might actually serve black just as well as king f7, even bishop e1. So say knight e3, black can still use this maneuver to get in to the white position. So it all kind of hinges on that the black king just waiting around, and you know, it will be very, very tricky for white to do anything. If white's forced to play h4 in this sort of position, I'm not entirely sure that that's really going to help, actually, because if we start moving the knight here now, we're going to lose h4. h4 is a target. So all in all, it does seem as though it was an equal kind of ending, potentially equal ending, between 2 of the strongest players in the tournament, and the game has become victim to the move 40 blunder zone with accurate play, perhaps counterintuitive play, you know, to get the king over here rather than try and care about this side of the board. But it actually keeps black in balance. So I hope you enjoyed this first video in this series, and I'll show you more evidence of this, what I call the Blunderzone. I think it's a major source of actually decisive games, even in top level Grandmaster chess. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.